an unstoppable force to be reckoned with, Oklahoma star edge rusher R. Mason Thomas is prepared and returning to terrorize the SEC.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast. Cover your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst with Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He is the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydays, guys. We got a fun one. R. Mason Thomas, the star edge rusher from Oklahoma. Is he prepared to dominate one more year in the SEC? We got Cassius Howell from Texas A&M, a twitched-up explosive rusher that you need to know about. And then Max Llewellyn from Iowa. We talk about their interior defensive linemen and their offensive linemen all the time, but they have an edge rusher that you need to know about as well. But before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. R. Mason Thomas. Keith, I really enjoyed studying this young man, right? Like coming off a season, very productive year, too. 10 QB hits, 9 sacks, 16 pressures. I believe he's listed at 6'2", in between 250, 255, somewhere in there. But man, Keith, like first step explosiveness. But go ahead.
No, I was gonna say this because you said that he had a productive year. I'll say this too, DP. It was consistent, and we seen this over the past few years that we'll have a guy that'll touch double-digit sacks, but he'll have 3 or 4 sacks in one game, and then another 2 or 3 in another game, and then but for the most of the season,
6 weeks with no sacks.
Yeah, like right, and honestly, probably closer to 8 or 9 weeks, right? Like just did nothing, which makes it difficult. But like just reading off real quick for our listeners, so he had the breakout blow up game right against Tulane. He had 3, right, and that's what we kind of talk about. But he had another 2 against Auburn. He had a half a sack against Tennessee, a half a sack against South Carolina, a sack against Missouri, a sack against Alabama, and a sack against LSU, right? So kind of, it's you want to spread the wealth, right? You want to give everybody a little bit of the action, right? Like make everybody respect the game, and that's what he was able to do.
No, 100%, man. I like watching him, and you see him used in multiple ways where he'll stand up and rush off the edge. They'll widen on him. He gets in the 4-point stance. That first step explosiveness, like he had some reps against Will Campbell, and I'm like, yo, like that's when it really, the 4th overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft had some moments where he struggled against him, where that get off, that first step quickness, that explosiveness, how sudden he popped off the ball, but then his ability, he's already 6'2". Right, so he already has kind of the leverage in the situation where you're 6'5", 6'6", like a Will Campbell and everything. So he already has natural leverage, but then he keeps that just like it's crazy. I was watching some of the 100-meter dash stuff that's going on recently in track, and I was watching them when they get into their stance. I'm like, why does the combine have these kids lift they one arm up? They don't do that in track. They both hands are down. They're at the line of scrimmage and they fire off. And I'm like, but that drive phase is what I was paying attention to because I was watching how they drive phase. And I was like, he keeps his pads low. So like every step he is gaining ground and like he's able to either knock your hands away or just go right underneath him if he needs to. He does a good job with hand placement when he wants to strike and then timing his strikes. He dips and bends around the edge. This is a guy, I'm telling you, like we're going to fast forward. He has another 9, 10, 11 sack season. And then we see him probably at the Senior Bowl. And now everybody's like, man, this dude's a first round pick. Well, listen, you've heard it here first. He's also in that article I talked about on yesterday. Like those overlooked prospects, this is a guy that should be in some people's first round mocks. I truly believe that, Keith.
Yeah, I could see a clear path for that, right? When we're talking about a stand-up edge rusher, just Oklahoma, especially over the past years, right? They just haven't been notorious for good defense, right? So even when you put it there, it's kind of hard to see it, right? It's kind of like Oklahoma edge rusher, right? But I agree with you, DP, that there are a lot of things to really like about him. And you think about it in context of simply knowing how to get home. And some of the best edge rushers, DP, are not the guys that we kind of, I guess, glorify in a sense during the draft process because they're, 6'5", 6'6", and they're 280, and they do like, for instance, right? Or for example, if we were being clearly transparent, and I'm not saying us because we always are transparent, right? And with our scouting, but the draft community as a whole, then there should have been a real conversation if Byron Young, the edge rusher from Tennessee, is a better edge rusher than a Michael Williams from Georgia, right? But Byron Young was a guy that was never to touch the first round, and Michael Williams was a guy that was always slated as a top 20 pick. Why? Right?
Right.
Sense. And I think that's you know what I'm saying? Like that's the transparent part. Now we take R. Mason Thomas, similar conversation. Will he actually jump into the first round? I think there's a chance, right? Like there's ways that you can twist this and build momentum, but there's also the other side of that is there going to be some edge rusher from, a different school that people are like more willing to accept it, right? Or is there a certain narrative or storyline? We've done edge rushers before. I'm going to ask you this because I know that you like Mason Thomas a lot. Who do you like? And I think that they're probably very similar body types. That's why I think this would be a good versus. R. Mason Thomas or TJ Parker?
TJ slightly though. I like TJ a little more. Overall, it's just a pure player. I think both of them, have a lot of quantities you want. Mason's going to be that more first step explosive rusher, where TJ's more of the technician, the power. He's got a good get off, but R. Mason Thomas can, if that tackle's sleeping, your quarterback gonna get sacked. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you got to get out the blocks with him. Like, that's the type of guy you got. And I keep out when I was watching him from my article, I thought about, and I put in there a little insert. I was like, we just watched Jalen Walker go top 15. Yeah. And Jalen Walker was used as a hybrid player, not even allowed to play full edge rusher to really like develop his full skill set and showcase the bag that he has. It was more so in spots and more sporadic. Like, okay, Arch Manning comes to the game, we need you to play linebacker and spy him, right? Quinn Ewers in the game, we walk you down to the edge, go get after him because he's not going to move around the pocket a lot. So they just used him a lot. So it kind of, for some people, it muddied the profile. But I was like, I'm drafting Jalen Walker. I don't care. You know what I mean? And I looked at the height and the body type and things like that. I think Thomas might be a little heavier. I think he's like 255.
He's probably bigger, right? He's probably just a little bit bigger, like an inch and a half and 15, 20 pounds, right?
Arm length probably a little bit better. I think arm length probably a little bit better. But like I was like, like there's a chance for him to go. JPJ out of Tennessee, right? Like we just watched James Pierce Jr. We watch him go in the first round as well. They traded back up to get him. We watch him go first round. I think there's a clear, because especially as we talked about this edge class, one thing we've noticed about this edge class, Keith, it's been a lot more bigger bodies, right? A lot of the 6'5", 6'6" from Falk to Uiagalelei. Like there's some more bigger dudes at the top. He's that change of pace, or that breath of fresh air in a sense, where it's like you stand most of the top guys up in a row and it's like, oh, you guys are like carbon copies body type wise. And then you get to him, and then a guy that we're going to talk about next, Cassius Howell. Like those are the guys that's like, all right, for those odd front 3-4 teams, those are the guys that you want to have, right? Mateo Uiagalelei and Keldrick Falk aren't going to help odd front team that needs a stand-up edge rusher. They're going to help you if you need that guy that's handing the dirt. But a guy like R. Mason Thomas, like I absolutely love what I saw from him on tape, and I think that there's even more production that Brent Venables can get out of him in 2025.
Yep, I agree with DP. We hinted at it. Let's do it, man. Let's stay in the SEC, but let's go to Texas A&M College Station. We're going to talk about their edge rusher, Cassius Howell, coming up next.
Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends and family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it all possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to the first pitch. And they have incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worrying out of buying tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account, use the redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Listen at 6'4", 245, 250 pounds, Texas A&M. They might not find a quarterback consistently. But man, their defensive lines be loaded, Keith. Like, they just know how to recruit and how to get the defensive line prospects and defensive prospects, period. Cassius Howell coming off a season, 6 QB hits, 4 sacks, 24 pressures. And Keith, he is twitchy. He's twitched up. He's explosive. He gets off the ball in a hurry. That first step quickness you got to love. I do appreciate he's a guy that times his punches well upon contact as a pass rusher, where if he's working that outside shoulder, you see him literally watch the tackle and prepare his hands for whenever they shoot theirs. But and it feels like you had Nick Scourton last year with that Dwight Freeney spin move. And then you look at Cassius Howell, he's got that he's got the Robert Mathis spin move as the smaller player of the two. That inside spin counter is lethal. And his ability to work outside, make you get on your high horse as a tackle, get in deep into your set, move you, essentially kind of separate you from that bumper, and then he spins back inside and he's right there in the face of the quarterback. Keith, also when he played LSU, there was a rep of him man to man against Mason Thomas. Took him outside on the wheel route, stride for stride. That was like, okay, so he's not just an edge rusher. Like, this is a guy that you can, especially those 3-4 teams, where it's like, okay, we come out in base. This is a team that West Coast offense, things like that. We might rush the other edge rusher. We're going to drop you, and we can drop you off in the coverage. He's fluid enough. He's athletic enough. Cassius Howell is a guy that you must watch in 2025 because he's another those 3-4 edge rushers that could work himself into, at worst, back end of round 1, top of round 2, that gives you enough versatility where he's a 3-down player. I think for him it's going to be, okay, showing that he can handle and you're in the SEC. We know what you're going to have to deal with. The SEC is all about the trenches, right? Speed is everywhere in college football now. What separates the SEC and the Big Ten is the monsters they have on the offensive and defensive lines. So, when you see Boise State go against Penn State, I'm not surprised Ashton Jeanty had a tough time. Like, you're dealing with legitimate dudes on the defensive line and at the second level. So I think Cassius Howell has a chance, Keith, to really open a ton of eyes. And if he comes out 9-10 sacks this year, couple forced fumbles, especially with that spin move is going to open up opportunities for him because he does it inside. I want to see him kind of convert it to an outside spin. Because if he can get that outside spin going and clear that tackle, he has the closing burst to flatten to the quarterback. Oh, baby. Like, we're talking about the guy that's going to be strip sacks. Quarterback doesn't see it because he's rushing off their blind side. He's hitting the ball. He's got 4 or 5 strip sacks in the season. You know who he reminds me of, though? Nick Bonito.
So Broncos. I thought about him, and I was, and to be completely honest, I was not a big fan of Nick Bonito. But Nick Bonito has had some success in the NFL. I would hope and I want to know that I want to believe that he's better than Nick Bonito, right? Like, plays stronger, things like that. But literally, I thought of the same thing just with the schools and them both kind of playing. Because Nick Bonito, I don't think Brent Venables wasn't there, but Oklahoma was still running that kind of hybrid front, doing a bunch of different things across the board. With Cassius Howell, DP, when I first cut him on, my first words were, "Here we go," and you know why. And the reason was because we have another Texas A&M defender that we're trying to figure out where to put them, right? And just background on Cassius. Believe he was a Bowling Green transfer, right?
Yep.
And that kind of got the attention, and then he jumped into the transfer portal, got into the rotation of Texas A&M. Now, do I think that he can be a double-digit sack guy next year? Yes, but it goes back to our conversation that we talk about them and honestly Georgia. Those are the two teams that are most guilty of this. That I don't even know if they're going to get the opportunity, right? Because it kind of happened, not kind of happened last year, right? But it's the, you got Shamar Stewart, you got Shamar Turner, you have him, you have Nick Scowerton, right? Like, because you almost you look at the collection of goods, and you can never have enough of something, right? But when you're talking about selfishly from scouting, it's like, okay, you had Nick Scowerton. Did you need him? Or do you just need Shamar Stewart to get more reps so we can figure out who Shamar Stewart is, right? But that's selfishly from a scout. Like, I understand team building. You're like, you know what? Give me as many edge rushes as you possibly can. And so I look at Cassius Howell. I'm excited about what he can do and what he, just what he could do for Texas A&M next year, but I also want to pull up the depth chart and be like, you know what? Who are the other guys behind him? Because it's very possible that these guys wind up splitting 50-50 reps. So I look at Cassius Howell, and I agree with you. I think the first step quickness, the explosiveness, the fluidity, I think it could be all there.
No, 100%. And I think to your point, Keith, it's crazy because Texas A&M, like you said, you could never have too many pass rushers, too many defensive line prospects, whatever. They just get they tend to they're that person that goes in the grocery store to shop for groceries and food, and they buy more than they can cook. And it was like, why are you getting all these? Like, no, like just play what you have, right? Like, get your freshmen, bring them in, let them sit, whatever. That's your backup. But you go out in the transfer portal, you get Scowerton, you get a Cassius Howell, and then you don't know what to do with all of them because you're like, man, all these guys are pass rushers. Then you have like the Turner and Shamar Stewart. They all have the similar body type to Nick Scowerton, where it's like, oh, well, you could play interior defensive line. You could play on the edge. And it was like, well, let's just move you around and see what works. It's like, if you guys don't figure out how to get guys in just static spots and let them develop.
This goes back years, right? All the way back to like the Marvin Leals and remember Michael Clemens, right? Like he was another, like this is now going on 5 years of this.
They've been doing it for too long, and it's just like, how do you keep getting recruits to how do you keep getting guys to transfer in? Say, yeah, I'm buying in. It was like, did you watch film of what they did last year? Right. No, like let them, like, you know what? Respectfully, I decline. I need to go somewhere that's gonna play me at one spot. If I'm switching sides, I'm fine. I don't care, right? But if I'm 245 pounds and you got me rushed up against the guard when I should be outside on the tackle, we got a problem, bro. Because you put me in some really precarious situations for my draft stock, and I'm trying to be as high of a pick as possible. Now, I look at it like, to your point, that's the thing. Like, we're excited about Cassius Howell. We're pessimistic about Texas A&M's rotation of their defensive line prospects because you don't know what you're going. Because I remember Auburn used to do this with their offensive line. Like, I'll be watching I remember when I was at the Draft Network, when I first got there, I was watching one of their guards, and I was like, did he get hurt? Like, the very next play, I'm like,
oh, yeah, they rotate him.
And then it's like, oh, they just, bro, wait a minute. They rotating the guard and tackles. I'm like, and you wonder why the offense is not where you want it to be. You can't get 5 guys on the same page rotating guys, and then Georgia does it with their D-line. I think Georgia's done it with their O-line at times too.
No, they did. Yep, they definitely have.
I don't understand the concept personally, but it's like, yeah, man, like I'm excited for Cassius Howell because, again, as I'm watching him and I'm like, man, he reminds me of Nick Bonito. That first step quickness, the bend, the spin move, like, and you know, for those who don't know how good Nick Bonito was this year, 54 pressures in 17 games played, 13 and a half sacks this year. Like, he took off. He had 8 sacks in 2023. That's why we always say, Keith, development is not linear. Don't expect the same development for everybody. 2022, Nick Bonito had 1.5 sacks. He started one game, he played in 15, but he had 1.5 sacks the entire season. 2023, he jumped to 8. In 2024, he jumped to 13.5. He might be in the 15-16 for 2025. If this
we're gonna be talking about him as one of the best edge rushers in
legitimately.
If he goes back to back double-digit seasons.
It'll be him and Patrick Surtain fighting for that Defensive Player of the Year award if this continues. So, like, yeah, man, that's when I watched Cassius Howell, I was like, I remember when you wrote the report on Jahmyr Gibbs, and he was like, it's going to be a Saturday afternoon game, and everybody's going to be watching, and he's going to ball out, and he's going to be on everybody's radar. I feel that way about Cassius. If they let him go, it's going to be a Saturday afternoon game. It's going to be an SEC contest, a big-time game in the SEC, fourth quarter. The opposite team that they're trying to drive to win the game, and he's that guy. I think he has the potential to be that lightning off the edge, that bucket getter late in the games. You need the sack. Cassius Howell has that potential.
Yep. Well, DP, let's do this, man. Let's go to Iowa. We're going to talk about Max Llewellyn. I believe I'm saying this right.
Llewellyn. I think it's
Llewellyn. Okay. I'm sorry. We're going to talk about Max Llewellyn, the edge rusher from Iowa. We're going to get into his film, let you know who he is, coming up next.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot, for being our everydayers. Iowa typically has a running back, an offensive lineman. You might get a corner, safety or two, especially on the D-line. We just talked about Aaron Graves sometime last week, a.k.a. the Grave Digger, one of Dame's dudes already. I'm already stamping him as that. Max Llewellyn, man, this is for everybody to know. This is not a guy that started. So when you hear these numbers, he wasn't a starter. He rotated in. 6 QB hits, 6 sacks, 23 pressures, a forced fumble, a fumble force on the season. He didn't start a single game. He had 203. He came in as a DPR essentially. 6'5", 258. He had 203 pass rush snaps on the season. So they brought him in with one thing in mind: get after the quarterback. And Keith, this is a guy, you tell me if you agree with this. I don't see like we've talked about with R. Mason Thomas and with Cassius Howell, that elite, just that explosiveness, the first step, that like getting upfield in a hurry. I don't see like that. He gets upfield, but I don't see that level of juice from him. He's kind of that TJ Watt, like those guys that are just so technically sound and refined as a pass rusher. Like his hand usage is really good. He knows how to play off of the tackles, and he knows how to place his punches well. But to me, it's the pacing and timing. You never see him sped up. He plays at his pace, and he makes you play at his pace as well. And he's one of those guys where it's kind of like he's that defensive boxer, where it's like, hey, I'm not coming in here throwing haymakers for you to counterpunch me, knock my lights out, and this match is over in the first round. No, I'm going to make you be aggressive. I'm going to make you annoyed because I'm fighting from a defensive standpoint. You're going to throw your punch first. And I see tackles kind of get a little antsy with him because they don't know when his hands are going to fly up and hit them. So they shoot their hands, and he's like, okay, now that's what I wanted. I got you now. And he's able to counter. He had a rep where I think it was against Minnesota. The speed, the power. Like he got his hand fitted into, I think it was the right shoulder of the right tackle. And you could tell the tackle was not expecting it. Like he thought he was gonna try to work the double hand swipe or something like that. Nope. He went speed to power immediately, walked him, and I think he put him on his back and got right into the face of the quarterback. He might have tipped the ball and either caused an incompletion or an interception. Like this is a guy I'm excited to watch because now and I'll say this: he's what Lucas Van Ness should have been. He's what what people wanted Lucas Van Ness. Again, he didn't start and to have 6 sacks, 6 QB hits, 23 pressures, I think it was. Yeah, 6 QB hits, 6 sacks, 23 pressures, and a fumble force. Keith, all while working as an outside rusher, where Lucas Van Ness was playing 4-eye with 2 hands in the dirt in the 4-point stance. This guy gets after the quarterback off the edge. He is what a lot of you not. We fast forward to the 2026 draft, and he's going to be a Green Bay Packer, and they're going to be replacing Lucas Van Ness with Max Llewellyn. I like his game. I need to see him. He only played because again he was a rotational guy. He only played 79 snaps against the run. Got to see what that looks like for a full season as a starter. How do you handle full-time run duties? Because when you're coming in on third downs, You know what time it is. Like, you know, your sole responsibility to get to the quarterback. Can you be like the phrases we always use, Keith? Earn the right to rush the passer.
Mm-hmm.
Can Max Llewellyn earn the right to rush the passer as a full-time starter? That's going to be one of the biggest question marks on him heading into the 2025 college football season.
Yeah, I mean, quite a few questions, right? Because I know at the very beginning you talked about his athletic ability, right? And how it's not high end. I want to ask you, is it enough to where you feel like he's not a tweener, though? And what I'm saying is that, you know, the guys in the past, like, and I always go to this name, like Yator Mas Gratos, right? Where he was like, you know, wasn't quite dense enough to be interior defensive lineman, but wasn't quite fast enough around the edge to be considered a real threat from the edge. So do you think he's athletic enough to be a consistent threat around the edge?
I think he's a functional enough athlete to do so.
Mm-hmm.
I think because he's listed like 258, 6'5", I think 6'5", if I remember correctly. Yeah, 6'5", 258. So it'd be like, okay, if you want to, now don't get me wrong, could he be a great candidate for, if you might have to bulk him up maybe 7 to 10 pounds for a even front team as like a base defensive, strong defensive end where he can still rush the passer off the edge, but he handles the run duties as well? Sure. You know what I mean? If you're an odd front team and you want to like play him more inside, you probably going to have to bump him up 15 pounds or so, get him up too close to the 270, 275.
To be completely honest, like if he bout that life, right? Like, because that's a different game, right? That's a different brand of football going on in there.
Everything up there is a little bit more physical when you do reduce down a little bit down the line of scrimmage. So yeah, I think he's a guy that's functionally, he's got enough athleticism. And honestly, I think he's a guy that, you know, NFL defensive coordinators might look at it. Okay, if you do have a little bit of question about, if you're going to have a question about his speed, like, you know what, I'm a wide 9 right? Pull that tackle out 1-on-1 on the island, and now you have two lanes to operate in. You can, you know, sell that outside, attack that outside shoulder, right? And then because he and that's why I really appreciate his process, because he'll use a kind of that Euro step rocker step movement at the top of his rush. And then he'll convert speed to power. And it's so sudden and quick where you see that, like, when he gets the shoulders moving laterally, the tackle's feet are not settled. So they're trying to figure out. They're swaying themselves. And next thing you know, he goes, nope, power. And you're on your toes, your heels just swiftly hit the grass. And now you're on your back. And it's like his ability. I think we talked about this with Donovan Ezeroku, just a natural instinctive rusher. I see that with Max Llewellyn. Like, he's just really instinctive to where he knows he has a plan. He knows how to execute it. He knows, and I feel like he's a gym rat or a film rat. Like, he studies his opponents to know how you handle. So it gives him a little bit of a leg up. And when he gets those matchups, granted, in the NFL, I think, because even from his body type, Keith, you tell me you disagree with that. I feel like he still can fill in his frame.
Yeah, like upper body, I thought so too. Like, I thought he could afford to get stronger, right? Like there's like
265.
Like he can reach another level and get strong, and that's why I think an interesting path for him is the strong side defensive end in a base front in a 4-3. I thought of Sam Hubbard a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
A guy that, you know, but I also think he may have more upside than Sam Hubbard, to be honest.
For sure.
That it could be a nice 1-2 duo punch. Like, now if you get him and then you have a guy like a Donovan Ezeroku on the backside, right? That's your weak side defensive end. I think they could serve as good 1-2 punches and serve the roles they need to.
100%. I want to see him, you know, definitely like just add a little bit more muscle to the frame up top, because then, like, that, you're already strong. You can already convert speed to power. When you add a little bit more power to your body type or to your frame, it just increases that. So the guy I'm looking for, I'm excited to watch. I want to see him as a full, like, it's one thing to come in as a DPR, but when teams are now they're gearing for you each and every week, like, okay, we know he's starting on the edge. Now the tackles have more of a plan for you than you coming in every 10 plays, every 15 plays on third downs. On those passing downs, and they don't, you know what I'm saying, they're used to those bigger, stronger defensive ends to stop the run, and then you just come off the bench, fresh legs in the fourth quarter, getting after the quarterback. What do you do when your snap share, your snap count increases to 60, 70 plays and you're playing a full game? That's going to be the main thing. Do you have the stamina to handle it, right? To not only still rush the pass can you rush the pass in the fourth quarter as a full-time starter? Like those are realistic questions and logical questions to ask, because now you have to play a full game, all 4 quarters, rather than being a rotational sub in, sub out type of guy. So looking forward to seeing how he handles everything. But those lineups, or those situations where it's 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, and you got Max Llewellyn on the edge, and then you got Aaron Graves flanking them on the inside. That's a very difficult combo that the Big Ten teams will have to deal with.
Yep, I agree with DP. There's R. Mason Thomas, Cassius Howell, Max Llewellyn. I got it right the second time around. And that's the edge rushers, more edge rushers that we presented to you in this summer scouting series. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at the Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to the podcast, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Guys, on tomorrow's show, we're talking tight ends. Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt, Jack Injuries, who I believe transferred from Cal to Texas. We're going to tell you about these tight ends. We saw Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren, both go in the top 15 picks of the 2025 NFL Draft. Are there enough tight ends to potentially threaten for first-round picks? We'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.